Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Today I have a very special guest from Austria. Kevin is a Web3 expert. Previously he was a Web2 software developer, then he jumped on to Web3. He worked with many organizations, led organization as a CTO and has worked as a blockchain developer himself. Currently he is building his own blockchain consultancy and development firm called Wavect. In this episode we had really amazing conversations on ZK rollups, optimistic rollups, side chains, blockchain infrastructure, legal side of things, Austria, how things are moving, entrepreneurship in Web3, and many more. So without wasting any more time, let's just jump into the episode. Okay. What happened? Oh, you have to first like and subscribe to in order to move. Done? Okay. Hope you like it. Let's enjoy the episode.
I got in crypto in 2018. It really fascinated me.
What would you consider that one particular moment that changed your life? Like for me, it was when I shifted to a new place with new flatmates and got introduced to blockchain.
What did you think about blockchain?
So I was in traditional stock market and all, and I was into blockchain with investing kind of perspective, just investing in crypto. But on the development side and how this can change the entire world or improve the entire world, that was something new which I found after looking deeper into the projects, understanding how those projects work and what are their real world implications.
I think many people, especially the ones that actually just entered crypto, don't even see all the possibilities that come along with that. Most people just see, oh wow, NFTs, community building, brand building, which is amazing. I love it. But there's so much more to blockchain. Just looking back 2 years ago, where there weren't such things at that scale, at least. It was all about NFTs, and NFTs will change the world, and I think they will. But at that point, we had many other use cases that have been core of the blockchain.
Which one is your favorite?
It's really, really hard to name a favorite here. There's so many interesting applications for that. Those with a strong real world use case are my favorites.
So recently Balaji released a book called Network State, which talks about creating a country of decentralized world. Do you feel that there could be a country where the citizens are living all across the globe and they are virtually connected to that nation?
Everything that would remove power from governments or companies is less likely to happen because they have the power now. Why should they give it away? But instead, what we see right now is that the really large corporations are now entering Web3. They are then controlling part where the Web3 space is moving.
So in Austria, are people creating more and more Web3 startups? Are the meetups happening? Are people going to meetups? Are Web2 developers shifting at an accelerating pace to Web3?
100%. It's great that people are interested in this space. What I don't think is so great is that everyone just rushes into it because they think they are gonna earn a lot of money with it.
Yes.
I think that's actually bad. It can be entering for the wrong reasons and staying for the right reasons. Something a little bit sad, but it's great for adoption. So why not?
So how did you enter the ecosystem? How did Wavect start?
Basically, I entered in 2018. Someone approached me on, I think, LinkedIn.
Okay.
And said, hey, Kevin, from nearby. So we were able to meet physically. Mm-hmm. I'm working on a blockchain startup, like a decentralized identity startup. And I met him. I wasn't convinced. I said no. Half a year later, a former friend of mine approached me as well and said, hey, he is working on blockchain startup. And I trusted him, because he's more experienced in that specific area. That got me to think, okay, let's move that guy. And funnily, it was the same one, And that, made me join his startup.
What did that startup do?
They still try to provide identity solutions on the blockchain, right?
Okay.
Which many other startups already do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really difficult topic. It's still a major challenge, and it's also a very political one.
Whenever there is a link between, let's say, the Web2 world or the traditional world and Web3 world, which is very prominent in ID solutions, like you are connecting a citizen who has government IDs and all to a decentralized organization, then it becomes a challenge, especially on the legal side of things.
Yeah, 100%. the legal side, the whole regulation.
Are you guys solving any such problem with Wavect for any of your clients or?
Yeah, Wavect in general is on one side a pure service provider developing smart contracts, DApps, consultancy, advisory, workshops, and so on. And on the other side, we also developing our own products, but none of them have been released yet. That's where I'm working with other freelancers and now even my first employee together. Within the service provider and product area, we basically also build some minor identity solutions, yeah, but it's not like past then where you really try to build an app or build your own wallet and so on, your identity wallet, but more like a more modern approach. I'm coming with the buzzword soul-bound token, for example, where you have social recovery. When you lose your private key, you can get your NFT back, which is basically your identity, for example, and all that kind of stuff. But it's more research at the moment.
Oh, nice. So what kind of requests do you receive the most from clients?
Depends on the market cycles, right?
Right now.
Right now, it's more fundamental, right? It's more technical, product management, advisory, smart contracts for huge corporations, which, for example, want to launch a security token or NFT collection. Yeah, small startup became way less since we're in the bear market. That
Okay.
was
That makes a
way
lot of
different.
sense. They lost the
Yeah.
funding, they lost the fuel to drive. So in the last bull market, we had Uniswap, we had liquidity incentives, and a lot of new things came up. So do you think a similar phenomena would happen in the next bull market?
You know, there will always be projects that go to the moon off the charts, right? But since we are seeing now a huge amount of institutional money coming in, and considering, I'm not an economist, right? I think that's
Yes.
important to note. But what I know, or at least read, is the crypto market is super inefficient still, right? But the more efficient it gets, according to market theory, the less volatility we will have, which is great. I think we will, for a long, long time, be in a superior uptrend. But let's see how that recession is going. I think the next bull market will have such tokens, such projects, but they will be much more fundamental. It will be much more useful and way less. The hype gets less every time.
What do you think a developer in Web2 space should do in order, if they are looking to switch to Web3 or wanting to try out things and grab the opportunity in the next coming years?
I think the first one I would say is get your hands dirty, right? Build your own little projects, try things. Don't rush into your first project because it's not a regular software development. It's not a web app or a mobile app where you can fix things during the process, where you can make major mistakes. When you make a mistake with smart contracts, that can cost a lot of money and can also put a lot of risk on you and your client. And that's why I think test-driven development, code as much as possible.
What are the
and
few
do
mistakes which developers do in their early days?
We are just coding, thinking it works and not testing enough, not utilizing the ecosystem properly, because there are many, for example, static analyzers, for example, Sliver, where you can analyze your smart contracts for basic security issues, for example.
Okay.
Right? That's something that already helps. Always recommend your client at least a security audit where you get some feedback as well, so that also removes some pressure here.
So how can one start building? Let's suppose I am a full stack developer in Web2. I know Merge stack, and I want to now shift to Web3. How can I get projects? How can I get interns to work with, especially in a global environment like Web3?
First of all, get yourself familiar with blockchain itself. Like, I would never hire a smart contract developer who doesn't know how blockchain somehow works and why blockchain exists, right?
Okay.
Because we are getting in a phase now where a smart contract isn't the only solution, right? When a client comes to you and says, I want to achieve that, you shouldn't think smart contract, DApp and DApp, but rather think how can we solve that problem in the best manner for the current market, for that specific client, for his community, right? And most of the time, when he's approaching a smart contract developer, it's likely that it is a smart contract, right? But without understanding blockchain itself, you're not able to do that. That's the first thing, right?
Okay.
When does blockchain make truly sense? After understanding blockchains, it's not important, I think, to understand it on the deepest mathematical level, because 99% don't, right? And smart contract developers don't need to work on the blockchain itself most of the time, right? It's just important to understand things like consensus, gas, and the use case of blockchain. And yeah, just get yourself familiar with that topic first. I'm a really practical person. When I learn something new, I just start, right? I don't take 60-hour courses, Udemy or something like that. I basically think of a cool project, like a really simple one. If it's really my first one, I try to build. 99% also not a project I will deploy on mainnet, right? But rather it's a learning process. That's just my opinion, but everyone is different.
And what languages should they try?
I would say that's quite easy, especially if you start with Solidity, for two very simple reasons. One side, it's the largest ecosystem and there are the most jobs out there. Secondly, it's way easier than Rust.
Comparing Polygon with Solana, what are your thoughts on?
I have my Solana bags still, unfortunately. I love what they did with community growth. It's amazing. With their blockchain gets halted all the time. I think 5 times already this year.
Yes.
That's not what our blockchain is supposed to do, right? And Solana is super centralized as well. I think it's staying here. It will grow. They have
Network effect.
a great network.
What's your favorite blockchain as such? Mine is right now, I am leaning towards Polygon. Two reasons. So many good projects and especially started from India. So
I like Polygon as well, but less because of, at least the regular Polygon chain, right? Because it's a side chain. It's not as secure as, for example, a Rollup, which is much more secure way of actually building a layer 2 chain. For example, optimistic Rollups or ZK Rollups that are just on the rise right now, with mutable X and so on. They actually have much more data rooted in Ethereum itself, right? They're really secured by the Ethereum consensus mechanism. To a huge extent. Polygon is not.
how is a rollup able to maintain the security of its parent blockchain, let's say Ethereum, if you are talking about optimism, whereas sidechain have their own security?
When you have a sidechain, for example, you always have the responsibility to actually secure the chain yourself. How can you even think of building a chain that's as secure as such established blockchain as like Bitcoin or Ethereum when you're much smaller, right? That's just from a pure logical standpoint not gonna work, because you need some kind of decentralization, you need, all that kind of stuff that goes along with consensus. But when we look at rollups, for example, on one side we have a much more mature optimistic rollup, and we have ZK, or more accurately validity rollups, and both of them basically work with proofs. Optimistic rollup side, for example, you execute transactions optimistically. The network has some time to submit fault proofs, so-called fault proofs. That transaction, that block doesn't look right. When that happens, it just won't be included. If it is included, it will be submitted to the Ethereum L1 chain. Right? So really, we have the whole pipeline here. You really submit the data to Ethereum itself, and that's how it is secured.
What do you exactly mean by submitting the transactions optimistically versus what the side chains are doing, which is transactions and computational on their own blockchain?
Please note, I'm not 100% familiar with their architecture.
No worries for the viewers.
Yeah.
So this is just our opinion, and it's not fact based. It's not research based. Whatever we know, we are trying to share with you guys, and this is for purely entertainment purposes. Do your own research, learn about these concepts, go to the official websites to know about these things, and don't take our word for granted. So yeah, please go ahead.
Awesome. Perfect. On a sidechain, basically what Polygon does, as far as I know, they actually don't really need to submit anything to Ethereum itself, right? The purpose of a sidechain is more that you can scale, right? That you can move your funds from Ethereum to another chain and easily move it back, right? It's just a very strong connected chain to Ethereum. But what Polygon does is they submit some transaction data, as far as I know, as said, and that makes it somehow seem to be more interconnected, right? But that doesn't really secure the chain, right? It's just submitting some data. What, for example, optimistic rollups do. For example, if you execute a transaction on Optimism, right, or Boba or any other optimistic rollup, you basically broadcast it on L2, right? And the sequencer, which is the block producer, includes it on the L2 chain. And at some point, those blocks are then submitted in a very compressed form to L1, right? So the L2 chain is always able to reconstruct what actually happens from the L1 chain. Yeah, that's how optimistic rollups, for example, get their security. And that's also the reason why you need to wait 7 days, for example, when exiting such an optimistic rollup, because they give the network, for example, 7 days time to prove that some transactions may be faulty, maybe not correct.
Okay.
It's just a time frame, right? That's why it won't be so easy to reduce that time frame without sacrificing security or providing liquidity.
So to summarize the optimistic rollups, network just accepts whatever transaction is coming, saying that it's fine, it's correct, and then it gives 7 days or whatever time is allotted for the other nodes to verify that this is faulty transaction or anything. And while submitting the transaction is submitted in a compressed manner so that the efficiency, the entire transaction is not submitted. It's like compressed rolled up version of all the transactions into one transaction, let's say.
As almost as secure as the parent blockchain. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
100%.
So let's now talk about ZK Rollup, which is super duper interesting, and that's one of my favorite things in blockchain space. Like,
in contrast to the optimistic rollups, you have the so-called validity proofs. Basically, validate the transactions right on the spot or in a very short time frame, right? That enables you to withdraw faster from the chain, and it's in general also more efficient in terms of gas usage and so on. But one major, really huge disadvantage validity rollups have, they are not general. It's really hard to generalize them because you just can't validate any arbitrary transaction by default, right? It's a mathematical constraint. For example, immutable X, it's a specialized chain. It's specialized on NFTs. Having a really generic chain, just like Ethereum, BSC, KCC, Arbitrum, whatsoever, like optimistic rollups, you have to narrow down your validity proofs to specific transactions, right? There are some projects out there like ZK Sync 2.0, for example, and others that try to achieve that, but it's a really challenging thing. I'm super excited about ZK rollups as well. They come with some fallbacks as well, right? Validity proofs leak some information.
okay,
That's why it's more correct to say it's a validity proof instead of a ZK proof.
For the viewers, let me try to give an analogy of how ZK works, and correct me, Kevin, if I'm wrong. Imagine there is a cave which has just one door, and the cave is circular in nature. So you go all around the cave and come back to the gate. Now there is a second gate on the back side of the cave, and you want to make sure that, okay, let's suppose I say, Kevin, can you please prove that you have the key to that gate without showing me the key yourself? You can just go through one side, open the gate, cross the cave, and come from the other side. And that proves that, okay, there was a gate and you opened it, so definitely you have the key.
Awesome. Yeah, that's zero knowledge proof,
Yes.
right? You
Yes.
can provide information without leaking the actual information.
Correct.
For some party goers here, if you go, for example, to the guard, to the person who is watching the entrance,
Yeah.
you don't need to show your
ID card.
license, ID card, yeah. But instead, you just prove him, however, with your face that you're
They can ask some
over
question as
21,
well.
for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, or asking you some question. Yeah. So they don't know your actual birth date. They just know you're old enough, yes or no. Yeah, you can basically
yes.
prove that you either have the information or that the constraint is correct, right?
First step in mass adoption, I think, would be somehow connect users to fiat ramps in a secure, decentralized manner, and digital IDs in some manner, so that they have an identity and they are able to fluently transact their current wealth to Web3 wealth. IDs, if we are using zero knowledge for that, it can solve a lot of benefit. Like, so without disclosing that ID number, I can prove or I can validate anything on the internet, which is super required. I can do the KYCs, I can verify my identity as well.
There are, for example, some projects out there where, just as a use case example, if you sign up for a whitelist for an NFT airdrop, for example, or token airdrop, you always have to provide your wallet and maybe KYC yourself associated with that wallet. So basically your wallet is KYC'd. What ZKs could do here, for example, and I saw a project and that's actually super cool, you KYC yourself and you get a proof, a ZK proof that you can use to then get the airdrop to another wallet that's unrelated to your KYC. So your wallet is still anonymous or pseudonymous,
Okay.
but you're KYC'd, right? And the project owners don't know it themselves. So that could be something that might work in regulatory frameworks, but I don't know. They have been around for a few years as well, so it's not something shiny new that just popped up somewhere. They're just getting some traction right now.
What do you think is the future of UX in user experience in Web3? How can that be simplified? How can people do like what we are doing right now with login with Google? Any similar things happening in Web3 world?
Every UX improvement comes always with a small drawback on one other side, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, maybe not always, but I think in the blockchain space, crypto space, most of the time it does. For example, lazy minting, yeah, or where you basically get a signed information message from the project owners or whoever, from the government, from a company. It's just a coupon code, like a voucher that you can use for some things, right? And that would allow users, for example, when signing messages themselves, like on OpenSea, for example, they use that. You can seemingly do transactions on OpenSea without actually doing transactions. Right? It looks like you can mint your first NFT without having a single way or ETH on your wallet. You don't need any funds. You can mint on Polygon on OpenSea without having funds, right? And that works with lazy minting, right? You don't actually mint something, but it works different in that regard. For example, it looks it's in a centralized database, in OpenSea's database, that you minted that NFT, and as soon as someone buys that NFT or wants to buy that, that specific buyer needs funds anyway, and he is actually minting the NFT then. So that actually removes the whole barrier for creators, for example.
Is it same as gasless transaction?
Not necessarily. Lazy minting is, for example, just delaying the transaction, for example, to someone else or to a later time. But gasless transactions can also include, we do the transaction right now and you do it, you execute it, but we pay for it or the contract pays for it. That also exists.
The company pays for that one. Okay.
That's another one, yeah.
We discussed a lot about a lot of technical things, which I don't generally do. But thanks a lot for telling me in so much detail about those things. I understand you were trying to make it simplified for the audience to understand and for me to understand. But this is really cool. Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure. And I hope I didn't get too technical. I really tried to give my best.
No, it was perfect. Yeah. It was perfect. Thank you so much for watching till now. Hope you enjoyed it. If you found this video helpful, valuable, do share it with your friends. Do like the video. Do subscribe to my channel. And in the next episode, we'll come with another great episode. So till then, see you next time.